The Aldridge Grand lobby smelled of rain and brass. Marcus Whitfield came through the revolving door at 9, leather jacket damp, a small bouquet of red roses in one hand, a brown messenger bag across his chest. He walked to the front desk. Claire's eyes moved from his boots to his collar in half a second. No reservation under Whitfield. We're full tonight. It might be under corporate. Could you check again? Renata beside her. Call ahead next time. Try the Marriott 2 blocks north. Adrian Lockhart stood by the granite column, folder under her arm. She did not move. Marcus stood at the counter for 3 seconds. He did not argue. He gave Claire a small nod, the kind that blamed no one in particular, and turned toward the door, the bouquet held low at his hip so it would not brush against anyone. Adrian stayed by the granite column, the folder pressed harder under her arm. She did not step in. She had been with Whitfield Hospitality for 8 weeks, in the middle of her first regional audit, and she wanted the pattern on record exactly as it occurred. But something in the way the man walked out the steady, unhurried gait of someone who had been refused before and had learned how to leave made her open the folder. She wrote the time, the names from both name tags, the phrase, "No second check." Cut to Marcus behind the wheel of a rented SUV in the long-term lot. A light rain misted the windshield. He set the roses on the passenger seat and looked at the clock. 9:14. In the morning at 9, he would pick Sophie up at her grandmother's house in Mount Pleasant and drive her to Magnolia Cemetery. He had booked Aldridge Grand for tonight because it was the property closest to the cemetery in the chain, and because he had read 4 guest complaints from this location in the last 30 days, he wanted to see for himself. He did not call Gregory Sandoval. He did not give his name. He started the engine and drove 6 blocks to the Mills House Hotel, which did not belong to Whitfield. He checked in under his real name at that desk and held a key in 90 seconds. In the room, he asked the front desk for a vase. They sent up something small, glass, plain. The roses stood too tall in it. He put it on the table by the window. He sat on the edge of the bed and called his mother-in-law in Mount Pleasant. "Is Sophie down?" "She's asleep." "Did she pick the vase?" "The small glass one with the grapevines." "Elena's," she remembered. He thanked her. He hung up. He sat without moving for 4 minutes. Then he stood up and walked to the window. The vase was too small, the way he had known it would be. The roses leaned slightly to one side. Stems too long for the lip of the glass. He thought about calling down for a different vase, and decided not to. Sophie had picked Elena's vase for tomorrow. This one only had to last the night. He opened the messenger bag and took out a small black notebook, Elena's old travel notebook, the one he carried with him on the road and had never once read on a trip. He set it on the table next to the bouquet and turned off the lamp. Cut to the Aldridge lobby, 9:35. Adrian walked to the desk. She had not introduced her title to anyone in the property yet. She kept her voice level. "The man who came in earlier, did you check the executive booking field?" Claire frowned. "Are you a guest, or?" Adrian set her name card on the counter. Claire looked down. The color went out of her face. "I'm not having this conversation tonight," Adrian said. "I want both of you in the second-floor conference room at 10 in the morning. Bring your shift logs from the last 90 days. Renata started to explain. Adrian had already turned for the elevators. In the elevator, she opened the folder again. She wrote one more line. "Man in leather jacket. Whitfield. Cross-reference executive booking and the corporate registry first thing. Possibly same surname as the company. Coincidence." She underlined coincidence twice. Then she struck it through. 5:40 in the morning Friday. Adrian had not slept. She opened her laptop in Suite 814 and logged into the corporate registry of Whitfield Hospitality Group. She typed Whitfield into the shareholder field. One result. Marcus J. Whitfield. Founder and principal shareholder. 71% controlling stake. She did not move for a long time. The cursor blinked at the end of the line. Outside the suite window, the harbor lights were just beginning to dim into the gray of early morning. She thought back to the lobby, Claire's quick scan from boot to collar, Renata's casual try the Marriott. The man with the roses had been their boss. The man with the roses had been her boss. She had not stepped in. She had stood at the granite column with her folder, doing the very thing he had built the company to fight. She opened her email and searched her own inbox, 8 weeks of internal correspondence, and not a single photograph of Marcus anywhere in it. He had no public LinkedIn profile. The corporate website's About page held a single line. Whitfield Hospitality was founded in 2014 on a single principle: hospitality as character, not curriculum. No founder photo. She called the only person who could confirm what she now suspected. Henrietta Aldridge, chairwoman. Henrietta picked up at 6:05. When Adrian described the man, brown leather jacket, red roses, messenger bag, Henrietta was silent for 5 seconds. Then she spoke. "My dear, Tomorrow is the 3rd anniversary of Elena's passing. Marcus came back to Charleston last night. He has never once checked into Aldridge under his own name. He practices what he calls unrecognized visits. I have known him for 11 years. He is the only man in my life who has never introduced himself as anything. Adrian sat down on the edge of the bed. You watched Marcus's own property turn Marcus away last night, Henrietta said. Don't feel guilty about not stepping in. That is precisely the data he came to Charleston to gather. But if you want to do the right thing, find him this morning. He's at the Mills house. He always books the same room when Aldridge is full or refuses him. 312, 715. Adrian drove to the Mills house. She did not go up to 312. She waited in the lobby. She waited 27 minutes. She did not look at her phone. She watched the staff come and go behind the front desk, 2 desk agents, 1 bellman, a manager checking in early. Each one acknowledged guests by name as they came down. Each one looked up. She wrote that down in her folder too. At 7:42, Marcus came down. Still the brown leather jacket. Still the messenger bag. The red roses tucked under one arm with the stems freshly trimmed. He saw her and did not recognize her. He walked past her toward the front desk to drop his key. Mr. Whitfield, he turned. A second of silence. Adrian Lockhart, Chief Guest Experience Officer. I was going to email you this morning, but I was standing in the Aldridge lobby last night when Claire turned you away. I didn't step in because I wanted the pattern on record. I'm sorry I didn't walk faster. Marcus looked at her for 4 seconds. He said nothing at first. Then, you have nothing to apologize for. I came to Charleston to witness exactly what you put on record. We'll be working together starting next week. Today is your wife's anniversary, she said. I won't take any more of your morning. But if you want to come back to Aldridge this afternoon, I'll be there. 2nd floor conference room, 3 o'clock. I've asked Gregory Sandoval to be present. Don't ask Gregory. Don't tell him I'm coming. I'll be there at 4. She nodded. He walked past her, out through the door, and the bouquet swung gently against his side. 9 in the morning. Marcus pulled up in front of his mother-in-law's house in Mount Pleasant. Sophie was already on the porch in her pink coat, the worn, stuffed bear in her arms, her 2 braids freshly redone by her grandmother. She ran to the car and wrapped her arms around his leg. In the car, Sophie sat in the back seat, with the small glass vase, the one with the grapevines etched into it, the one that had been Elena's, cradled in her lap. Marcus moved the roses from the passenger seat to the back, so she could see them from where she sat. Daddy, did Mommy like red roses or pink ones more? Red. She always picked red. Why? She said red roses didn't pretend to be any other kind of flower. Sophie smiled a very small smile. She picked up a fallen petal from the seat beside her, and laid it flat in her palm. Magnolia Cemetery, 940. Marcus led Sophie by the hand through rows of moss-streaked stones. Elena's marker stood under a wide oak. Simple gray granite. Elena Marie Whitfield. She made rooms feel like homes. Sophie set the vase on the base of the stone with both hands. Then she handed Marcus each rose, one by one, and let him arrange them. They sat on the stone bench for 25 minutes. Sophie told her mother about Pickles, the cat at her grandmother's house. About the chapter book Daddy was reading her at night. About how she had finally learned to fold a paper crane. Marcus said nothing. He kept one hand on her shoulder. He had been holding his grief still for 3 years, the way a man holds a glass of water without spilling, and Sophie had been doing the work of carrying their family forward in the way only 6-year-olds can, by simply going on. He listened to her tell Elena about Pickles and the book and the crane, and he thought, not for the first time, that Elena would have been proud of who Sophie was becoming. When they left, Sophie turned at the gate and looked back at the stone. We come back tomorrow to change the water? Of course. 12:30. They had pancakes at Hominy Grill on Rutledge Avenue, the diner Elena had loved when she was a student at College of Charleston. Sophie ordered 2 pancakes with blueberries. Marcus only drank black coffee. He called his mother-in-law. Could Sophie stay with you this afternoon? I have something at the property I need to handle. Yes. She'll nap with Pickles. 1:45. He brought Sophie back. She kissed his cheek, held the bear, and disappeared into the back bedroom. Her grandmother stood at the doorway and looked at him. Everything all right? Something at Aldridge I need to take care of. I'll be done before dinner. 3:15. He changed into a navy blue shirt, no vest, no tie, but kept the leather jacket. He did not want to look too different. What he was about to do had to be done by the same man who had been refused the night before. 3:55. He parked in the back lot of the Aldridge Grand and walked in through the employee entrance. He knew the building. He had signed the papers to buy it from Henrietta in 2014. He took the stairs to the 2nd floor. In the corridor, he passed Dolores Vargas. She was pushing a linen cart. She looked up at him and stopped. The leather jacket. The messenger bag. The bouquet from the day before was missing. Her face went pale. "Sir, I'm sorry about last night. Claire told me this morning." Marcus stopped. He laid a hand lightly on the side of her cart. "What's your name?" "Dolores Vargas. Housekeeping supervisor." "Dolores, you weren't at the desk last night. That wasn't on you. Thank you for caring this morning." She looked at him a long moment, as if she wanted to say more. He nodded and walked past. She stood watching him go. Her hand went to the small cross at her throat. 4 o'clock. Adrian sat at the head of a boutique walnut conference table on the second floor, the window behind her looking out onto King Street. Gregory Sandoval sat across from her in a charcoal vest and a blue silk tie. Claire and Renata sat side by side at the far end, trying to keep their faces still. "Before we begin," Adrian said, "one more person will be joining us." The door opened. Marcus walked in. Gregory stood up almost on reflex. His face went pale, then recovered. 6 years as a GM had taught him how to hide quickly. "Mr. Whitfield." Marcus set the messenger bag on a chair and sat down at Adrian's left. "Sit down, Gregory. This isn't a termination meeting. This is a listening meeting." Claire looked down at the table. Renata swallowed. "Last night at 9 I walked into the lobby downstairs," Marcus said. "No reservation. Leather jacket. Bouquet. The look of a man I have practiced playing for 11 years, a tired man arriving late, who appears to want nothing from anyone." "Claire, you turned me away in 22 seconds. Renata, you suggested the Marriott." He did not raise his voice. "I'm not speaking to either of you because I own this building. I'm speaking to you because last night I was a father coming back to Charleston to put flowers on his wife's grave. If I had not been the owner, I would have slept in a Marriott lobby chair. Who you happen to be turning away does not matter. What matters is that you decided not to look." Claire opened her mouth to apologize. Marcus raised one hand, gently. "Don't apologize to me. I don't need it. Adrian is going to do a 90-day pattern review. If the pattern repeats in your files, you'll be notified through the proper channel. I'm not deciding anything about either of you today." He turned to Gregory. "Over the weekend I read 4 guest complaints from this property in the last 30 days. This morning, Adrian will pull the full 18-month log. I believe the number is higher than 4. Mr. Whitfield, every property has seasonal variability. I'm not asking, Gregory. I'm telling you." Silence. "Adrian will be at this property for the next 14 days. She has full access to records. You will cooperate completely. At the end of 14 days, she and I will sit down together and decide the next step. Until then, you continue as normal. Any questions?" Gregory shook his head. His collar was damp. Marcus stood. "Thank you all for your time." He looked at Adrian. A small nod. He left the room. In the corridor he let out a breath. The first one of the meeting, cut to 4:35. He took the stairs down. Dolores was in the open linen room folding towels. She looked up when he passed. "Mr. Whitfield. Is Sophie in Charleston?" He stopped. "How do you know my daughter's name?" "Elena. Elena stayed at this hotel many times in 2010, 2011. She told me about the baby she was expecting. I fixed her curtains 14 times in 1 week. She had sun sickness, and they wouldn't close all the way. I don't forget guests like that." Marcus put his hand on the doorframe. He did not know what to say. He stood there long enough that Dolores looked up from her folding. She did not press him. She kept her hands moving corner fold the way her hands had moved through every shift of every year. Finally Marcus said, "She loved this hotel. I had forgotten that." Dolores nodded once. "Some things keep until you can come back for them," she said. 5:30 in the evening. Gregory closed the door of the GM office in the basement. His hand shook as he pulled the burner phone from the drawer, the one he used to call a single number. On the other end, Howard Pell, Senior Vice President of Acquisitions at Sterling Hospitality Group in Atlanta. "Howard. Whitfield showed up at the property today. There's a woman, Lockhart, new Chief Guest Experience Officer. They're pulling the 18-month log. I need to move up the timeline." Howard was quiet for 6 seconds. "Have you deleted all your internal email?" "Email is done. But the complaints, I shredded the paper, but the database has an audit trail." "Gregory. If they find that audit trail, the Sterling deal is dead. You are dead. We don't protect a GM facing charges for obstruction. I'll handle it." The line went dead. Gregory sat still for a moment. Then he opened the database and began deleting the audit log entries one by one. He did not know that the new system Adrian had deployed 6 weeks earlier mirrored every change to the group's cloud server in real time. Cut to 6:45. Adrian sat in the executive suite on the 4th floor. Henrietta had asked her to move from 814 down to 414, so she would be closer to the GM office. She opened her laptop and pulled up the new dashboard, a red alert at the top. Database modification activity outside business hours. Source, GM Terminal. She looked at it for 4 seconds, then she called Marcus. He was on the floor of his mother-in-law's living room reading Charlotte's Web aloud to Sophie before bed. He apologized and stepped into the hallway. Gregory is deleting audit logs right now, Adrian said. I have the mirror backup. I need you to decide, do I lock his terminal immediately? Marcus was quiet for 3 seconds. No, let him delete. The more he deletes, the clearer the picture. The mirror becomes the evidence. Tomorrow morning at 8, call Henrietta. Set a board call for Monday afternoon. Yes? Adrienne, have you eaten? She was surprised for a second by the question. Not yet, in Husk on Queen Street. I'll book a table for 8. There's something about Elena I want to tell you before the board meeting on Monday. About why I don't run the company directly. 8. I'll be there. 8 o'clock at Husk. A corner table near the window. Marcus arrived first, still in the leather jacket, a clean shirt underneath. Adrian came in. Her hair, which she had worn pinned low all week, was loose now in a soft twist. Her bearing was still straight, but something in it had quieted since the afternoon meeting. They ordered simple food, collards, shrimp and grits for her, fried chicken for him, 2 glasses of water. Elena ran Aldridge first, Marcus said. Not officially. No title. In 2014, when I bought the building from Henrietta, Elena was 32. She had just left Ritz-Carlton. She wrote the first Whitfield training program. She wrote the line on the website, hospitality is character, not curriculum. After she passed, I let the executive team run things because I couldn't walk into a property without seeing her. Sophie was 3. I couldn't pretend to be all right in a meeting. Adrian did not speak. She watched him. She set her napkin on the table, but her hand did not move toward his. After a moment she said, I wrote our website line at Ritz-Carlton too. Mine was about how a hotel is the place a stranger trusts you to fix something they cannot fix themselves. I never thought I'd still be holding to it in my late 30s. Marcus looked at her. Elena would have liked you, he said. I think she would have hired you. Saturday, 9 in the morning. Adrian sat in the second-floor conference room with Lila Marsh. A forensic auditor, Henrietta, had flown in from Atlanta overnight. Lila had spent the last several hours running the mirror backup against the live database. Preliminary findings. Gregory had deleted 23 audit entries in 14 hours. They tied to 11 guest complaints suppressed over 18 months. The pattern was clear: single male guests arriving late, especially those who appeared not to be high spending, refused at the desk or shuffled into inferior rooms despite their bookings. Claire and Renata had been informally trained by Gregory. Protect brand image at the front desk. Adrian had also pulled the mirrored email server. 47 messages between Gregory and Howard Pell over 18 months. They discussed transferring training protocols, supplier contract details, and employee performance reviews to Sterling. Price: $2.1 million over 3 years, payable once Gregory crossed over. 11 in the morning. A knock at the conference room door. Dolores Vargas stood outside in her burgundy vest. She carried a shoebox. Adrian opened the door. Miss Lockhart. Is Mr. Whitfield here? He's with his daughter at her grandmother's. Should I call him in? Yes, I have something. I've been holding it for 12 years. 11:45. Marcus came up with Sophie. The girl wanted to come with him and held her stuffed bear. Adrian knelt down and greeted her, then led her into the small adjoining office. She gave her a stack of origami paper and a box of colored pencils. Sophie sat on the carpet and started to fold. In the conference room, Dolores set the shoebox on the table and lifted the lid. Inside, 9 handwritten letters from Elena, dated between 2010 and 2018. A photograph of Elena in the Aldridge lobby in 2011, 29 years old, smiling, one hand resting on her belly. And a small leather notebook. Elena had called it hospitality notes. Elena wrote this in room 612 in June of 2018, Dolores said. She was getting chemotherapy at MUSC, staying at Aldridge between treatments. She gave it to me the last week, before she went home to Atlanta. She told me if Marcus ever forgets why I loved this work, hand him this. I didn't bring it forward. For 3 years he didn't come back. I didn't know where to find him. Marcus opened the notebook. Elena's handwriting. The first page. Hospitality is not a department. It is the moment when one person decides another person is worth looking at twice. Everything else is decoration. He turned the pages. Elena had listed the names of Aldridge staff who had treated her kindly. Dolores was on page 4, circled. Next to her name, Elena had written, "Should be teaching, not folding." Marcus closed the notebook. He set it down flat on the table. His hands stayed on the leather cover. Adrian did not say anything. She looked at Dolores. Dolores looked down at her own hands. "Dolores," Marcus said, "would you be willing to take a new position as Chief Training Officer for the entire group, not just Aldridge, all 7 properties, built around exactly what you have been doing quietly for 9 years, Mr. Whitfield? I mop floors, I fold towels, you read a tired man, and fixed his bent flower stem in 90 seconds. 2 trained desk staff did not see him. That isn't a small skill. That is the whole skill. I would like to pay you $145,000 a year to teach it." Dolores put a hand on the small cross at her throat. She did not answer at first. She looked at Adrian. Adrian smiled, very faintly. "Give me a day," Dolores said. "Take as long as you need." In the next room, Sophie finished folding a paper crane. She came into the conference room and held it out to Adrian. Adrian took it and laid it flat on her palm and said nothing. Monday, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The Whitfield Hospitality boardroom in Atlanta, a long table. 9 board members seated around it. Henrietta Aldridge at the head. Marcus and Adrian were on video conference from the second-floor conference room at the Aldridge Grand in Charleston. Lila Marsh sat beside Adrian with her laptop set up to share the screen. Gregory Sandoval had also been called in. He sat alone in the basement GM office, connecting from his own machine. He did not know that Lila had been in Charleston since Friday. He did not know the mirror backup existed. Henrietta opened the session. "Today we hear the report from Miss Lockhart on the Aldridge Grand Charleston. Marcus has asked for this to be on the official record. Adrian, the floor is yours." "Thank you." In the 14 hours after I activated the audit, General Manager Gregory Sandoval deleted 23 audit entries from the guest complaints database. The new system mirrors every change. We have recovered all of it. I'd like to share my screen. Lila put up the timeline. 18 months. 11 suppressed complaints. The pattern: single male guests arriving late, dressed without obvious status, refused at the desk. 9 of the 11 had been forced to find another hotel. 2 had escalated to corporate. Gregory had killed both at the property level. "Miss Lockhart, I object. Audit logs can be..." "Mr. Sandoval, I haven't finished." The next slide. 47 emails between Gregory and Howard Pell at Sterling Hospitality. The most recent Friday at 5:42, 12 minutes after Marcus left the second-floor meeting. "Whitfield came in today. Move up timeline. I'll handle audit trail." The boardroom in Atlanta went quiet. One board member, David Reinhardt, turned to Henrietta. "Henrietta, this could be context misinterpreted." "Next email," Adrian said. Slide 19. Slide 19. The Sterling offer in detail. 2.1 million over 3 years. A list of 14 items Gregory had transferred or agreed to transfer. Training curriculum, supplier pricing, executive compensation tables, employee personnel files. Gregory's face on the screen went the color of paper. He did not speak. Marcus spoke for the first time. "Gregory, anything to say?" Gregory was silent for 8 seconds. Then he turned off his camera. His tile went black. Henrietta did not pause. "Motion. Terminate Gregory Sandoval as General Manager of the Aldridge Grand Charleston, effective immediately. Refer all materials to Corporate Counsel for civil action, breach of fiduciary duty, and misappropriation of confidential information." "I second my own motion," as the one who proposed it. One board member let out a dry sound that was not quite a laugh, the sound of a man recognizing clarity. The vote. 9-0. Motion 2. Appoint Adrian Lockhart as Interim General Manager of the Aldridge Grand Charleston for 60 days, while we search for a permanent successor. Vote. 9-0. Motion 3. Proposed by Marcus. Appoint Dolores Vargas to a newly created position, Chief Training Officer. Executive grade. Reporting directly to Adrian. Salary $145,000. Full benefits. A small equity grant. Responsibility: redesign all guest experience training across the 7 properties. David Reinhardt began. Marcus, a housekeeping supervisor, moving up to David. She was the only person at Aldridge on Thursday night who could see that I was tired. 2 of our trained staff could not. I don't need more data. The vote. 9-0. Cut to 3:15. At the Aldridge, 2 attorneys from corporate counsel arrived with 2 officers from Charleston PD. They went down to the GM office. Gregory was closing his laptop. They served the termination papers and an order to surrender all work devices. No cuffs. This was civil, not criminal. At least, not yet. In the second-floor conference room, Adrian closed her laptop. She let out a breath. Marcus, on the screen from Atlanta because he had flown up that morning for the meeting, nodded at her. "I'm coming back to Charleston tonight," he said. "We'll talk at Aldridge." "All right." 8:45 Monday night. Marcus came in from the airport by taxi, straight to the Aldridge. He walked through the main lobby this time. He did not go around to the back, the front desk. No Claire, no Renata. Both had been placed on administrative leave that morning, pending the formal pattern hearing. Behind the counter was Sienna, 24, alert-eyed and new. Marcus gave his name. Sienna stood, gave a clean professional nod, and handed him the key to suite 412 next door to Adrian in 414. He thanked her and took the elevator up. In suite 412 he set his bag down. He went to the connecting door and knocked 3 times, softly. Adrian opened. She was in a long gray cardigan, tired but composed. She stepped back and let him in. In the sitting room of the suite, 2 armchairs facing the window onto King Street. She had a French press on the table. She poured him a cup of black coffee without asking. She had learned how he took it Friday at Husk. They sat without speaking for 2 minutes. "Are you taking the interim GM position?" he asked. "I'll do the 60 days. But I don't want to take it permanently. I want to go back to chief guest experience. That's the work I came here to do. I'd recommend hiring a permanent GM from outside, not from anyone in Gregory's network." "Agreed." More silence. "Where's Sophie?" "With her grandmother. I pick her up in the morning and fly her home to Atlanta. She has school Wednesday." "I forgot she started first grade." "First grade. She likes her teacher. Miss Patel." "Miss Patel," Adrian said. "I think I went to college with her sister." "That doesn't surprise me. Charleston and Atlanta are smaller cities than they pretend to be." "Does Sophie talk to her about Elena?" "Once in a while. Miss Patel lost her father when she was 4. Sophie figured that out on her own. They have an arrangement." Adrian nodded slowly. She looked down at the coffee in her cup. Adrian reached for something on the side table, the paper crane Sophie had folded on Saturday. She had kept it. She set it down on the small table between them. "I didn't know what to do with it," she said. "I couldn't throw it away." Marcus smiled, very faintly. The first smile in 3 days. "Keep it." "I will." Silence stretched for 40 seconds. Outside, the street lamps on King Street cast a dull yellow into the room. "Adrian, I don't know what I'm offering. I also don't know whether I have the right to offer anything after 3 days. But I want to say this: if you finish the 60 days here, and then you come back to Atlanta for the chief guest experience role, I will be at headquarters more than I have been. Not because of you. Elena has been asking me to come back for a long time. You happen to be the person I want to be near when I do." Adrian did not answer right away. She looked at the crane, then at him. "I'm not in a hurry," she said. "You don't need to say more tonight. You don't need to explain. We have time." He nodded. He stood up. He walked to the connecting door. His hand rested on the knob for 1 second. He did not look back. He opened it and stepped through. Adrian stayed in her chair. After a while she picked up the crane and put it in the drawer of the bedside table. 7 weeks later. Late December. Charleston had morning fog but no snow warm enough in the afternoon for sun on the brick. Dolores Vargas had taken the chief training officer role 3 weeks ago. Her office was on the 3rd floor of Aldridge, not in the basement. She still wore the burgundy vest some days. A 9-year habit was hard to break. On her office wall hung a small framed image, the photograph of Elena in the Aldridge lobby from 2011, with a paper crane Sophie had folded tucked into the corner of the frame. Adrian had given it to her on the day she was sworn in. Hannah, Dolores's oldest daughter, had come to Charleston for Thanksgiving. It was the first Thanksgiving in 9 years Dolores had not picked up an extra shift. Gregory Sandoval was facing the civil suit from Whitfield Group. Sterling Hospitality had withdrawn the offer and opened an internal investigation into Howard Pell. The Charleston DA was reviewing the file. Criminal charges were possible. Claire and Renata had been formally terminated after their hearing the week before. The 18-month pattern was confirmed. Both were given policy standard severance and a generic letter of reference, nothing that would recommend them back to a guest-facing role. Adrian was still at Aldridge as interim GM. On the 14th of January, she would hand the keys to Vivian Cho, formerly of Four Seasons Boston, who had signed the offer. After that, Adrian would return to Atlanta full-time. Marcus had been at the Atlanta headquarters 3 days a week since the first week of December. Sophie's school was 12 minutes by car from the office. He picked her up in the afternoon and brought her back with him. She sat at the chair beside his and drew while he ran meetings. Friday, the 18th of December. Marcus flew down from Atlanta to pick up Sophie. She had spent the week with her grandmother, and he wanted her home in Atlanta for Christmas. 4 in the afternoon. They stopped by Aldridge on the way to the airport. Adrian was in the lobby, talking with Sienna. Sienna had been promoted to front desk supervisor. Sophie saw Adrian. She ran. Adrian dropped to one knee, no hug, just speaking at eye level. "Miss Adrian, are you coming to Atlanta for Christmas?" Adrian looked up at Marcus. He stood 3 steps away, one hand in the pocket of the leather jacket, his face level. "Maybe. I'm looking at the calendar. I folded another crane for you. It's in Daddy's bag." Marcus reached into the messenger bag and pulled out a small paper crane, light blue this time. He handed it to Adrian. She took it. She did not speak. She nodded, once, very small. "Did you know why I like cranes?" Sophie said. "Mommy said cranes are the bird that remembers. They fly very far and they always come back." Adrian held the small blue paper bird in her open palm for a moment. The lobby light was warm on the parquet floor. She closed her hand gently around it. "I'll keep it," she said. Sophie turned and ran back toward her father. Marcus watched Adrian for one more second before he turned to go. She did not say goodbye. She did not need to. The crane in her pocket was warm against her hip. She would carry it back up to the office and not tell anyone. Marcus and Sophie walked toward the revolving door. Sophie waved up at Dolores, who was on the stairs. Dolores waved back. Christmas Eve. In Atlanta, Marcus and Sophie had a quiet evening at home with her grandmother. Sophie had gone to bed in her own room with the stuffed bear. Marcus sat in the living room with the lamp off, the tree lights reflecting in the dark window. He had spent the afternoon at his desk, going through a box of Elena's letters that her mother had finally finished sorting and shipped down in November. He had not opened the box before today. There were 46 of them. He had read 7 and stopped because Sophie had come home from her grandmother's wanting to bake cookies. The other 39 were stacked on the side table next to the tree. He would read them after the new year. Slowly. He had time. At 9, his phone lit up. A message from Adrian. "I'm in the Aldridge lobby. The corporate party just wrapped. Dolores wants you to call her in the morning. She got a letter from a guest from October 2023 we thought we'd lost. Did you sleep all right last night?" He read the message twice. He typed, "Sophie's down. I'm looking at the tree. Adrian, thank you for 7 weeks. Thank you for standing by the granite column the night of November 5th and writing Claire's name in your folder. I don't know what you're going to do next year, but I want you to know I'm here." He sent it. Cut 2. The Aldridge lobby, 9:12. Adrian sat in the armchair by the fireplace, the same chair where Dolores had once set a vase for Marcus's roses on the night of November 5th. The fire burned low. The lobby was empty at this hour. She read the message. Her hand stayed flat on her lap for 30 seconds. She replied, "I'm sitting in front of the fireplace where Dolores brought you a vase. I don't know what I'm going to do next year, but I'm here. That's the answer I have today." Dolores walked through the lobby on her way home. She had volunteered for the closing shift on Christmas Eve, so the younger staff could be with their families. She saw Adrian in the chair and stopped. "Miss Lockhart, you fly back to Atlanta in the morning?" 8. Dolores sat down in the chair across from her. 2 women in the empty lobby of an old hotel. The fire burned. The Christmas tree in the corner blinked slowly. Elena wrote in the notebook. Dolores said, "Hospitality is the moment when one person decides another person is worth looking at twice. I read that line every morning before I open my office door. I think that line isn't only about hotels." Adrian looked at her. She said nothing. "You looked at him a second time from the column the night of November 5th, Dolores said. "You didn't walk over, but you looked. That's the hardest part. The rest he and Sophie will walk to that themselves." She stood. She put one hand lightly on Adrian's shoulder. Then she walked away toward the staff door. Adrian stayed in the chair for another 6 minutes. She looked at the small vase on the side table, red roses, fresh that morning, none of them bent. She took the light blue paper crane out of the pocket of her cardigan and set it down gently beside the vase. Outside the lobby glass, a car moved slowly down King Street, its headlights sweeping the porch of St. Philip's Church across the road. Charleston on Christmas Eve, warmer than most cities tonight. Kindness, she thought, almost never announces itself. It comes in someone noticing a bent flower stem at the wrong end of a long evening, and in the quieter act, much later, of someone deciding to keep looking.